Cool, that works. Hi, everyone. Let's talk about AI. When I started preparing this session, I went over to ChatGPT and asked, give me a cool opener to start this keynote at IntraNET Reloaded for me. And like you know, it started like giving me a text like this, and it started with, in an era where Siri, Alexa, and Google Assistant have become an integral part of all of our lives. At that point, I stopped reading. I was like, this is not true. Not for me, at least. I see, also, so help me quickly, who would say of you that those digital assistants have become an integral part of your daily life? Anyone? Probably not. And this is the thing about AI, right? Funny thing that I asked AI to tell me what AI is. Well, probably that's why it overestimated its own role. But I think it is super important to talk about this topic, but at the same time, we should not overestimate it. It's super important to look at it, to read about it, and to think about how you can leverage it for your organizations, for your daily lives. But at the same time, it's not an integral part in our daily life yet. Maybe some point in the future. Anyhow, I did ask ChatGPT a second question. And by the way, yes, I do say hi and please and thank you, just because I'm kind. And I asked it, how can artificial intelligence supercharge a company's multi-channel communication strategy? And again, it came up with a text like this. So I directly sent a second prompt and say, summarize this in one paragraph for me, please. And ultimately, it came up with saying, AI can help companies with their communication strategy, automating and personalizing things, being predictive, monitoring sentiment, and also doing some cool stuff, intelligent automation. Which is a decent summary. We're going to talk about some elements of this, but obviously we're still scratching at the very surface of this topic. By the way, hi, I'm Kevin, and I run product marketing at a company called Haiilo. This session is not about Haiilo. We're a leading employee comms and internet provider, so just FYI, if you're currently looking for a new, modern and engaging intranet that is not as complicated as to manage as a Microsoft-hosted intranet, please look at our friends from Stuffbase, Interact, Lumaps, look at us. We all have good solutions, different philosophies, but you should definitely try and find the best intranet for your organization, right? Just on a side note. But today is not about Haiilo nor me, but rather about my experience of the past 10 years in communications, in intranet, and just lately about thinking about how can all of this AI hype influence the market that we're operating in and help us be better communicators, have better intranets in place, etc. But before we start talking about this fancy stuff, we got to set some baselines. So let me start with this simple statement here. Employees have to be reached where they are. Simple. But I'd like to draw your attention to the word where. What does that actually mean? Is where a physical location? Is where a digital channel? Or is this even a state of mind, a certain interest that your target audiences, your employees have? Well, the answer is, it is all of this. You will have to think about all of those dimensions of the word where in order to being able to reach your employees where they are. So, and in order to do so, I think that you as communicators, HR professionals, internet admins, you should leverage more marketing tools. And I'm going to explain you why, because what does marketing do? Marketing has a product or service that they want to sell to a specific audience, and therefore they analyze and identify the channels that they can promote and sell their products or services on. They deeply analyze and are very good in identifying and analyzing audiences, and then ultimately they develop content. And finally, marketing is also all about numbers. So they are all about tracking pipeline, reach, conversion rates, all of this. And ultimately, marketing is also already a bit far progressed in terms of being assisted by AI, which I think in communications and intranet and internal, we're not doing any of this yet. Good enough, nor at all. So, but I would say, that's the thesis for today, you should do all of this way more in order to being able to have a more comprehensive communications and internet strategy. And why is this even important? So quickly looking back, remember the good old days when it was enough to have a static intranet and an employee magazine and everyone was happy? Well, that's definitely some time ago, and these times have passed. So nowadays, employee communications platform like intranets have to be something strategic. Strategic for your role, strategic for your company strategy, and ultimately also a strategic part of your entire digital workplace. At least this is what you should have as a goal, right? And in order to achieve those challenges, you will have to have a holistic view on this and also be cognizant of the fact that not only have those requirements risen throughout the past couple of years, but also new generations and the hybrid work situations that we're in at the moment is going to accelerate those requirements from an internet nowadays. So new generations coming into your companies have complete different working styles, working with modern tools, communicating, consuming content. It's something that Gen Z is doing completely different than other generations. So that requires even more flexibility from you as communicators, as intranet owners, in order to meet those requirements. So to summarize this, I believe that your intranet in 2023 and beyond cannot be an island anymore. You cannot think of being that one place where everybody goes to, you provide that in one single place and you expect everyone to go there. It's just not going to work, because this is not how work happens and work works nowadays in all of those circumstances. So this is why we talk a lot about multi-channel communications and the idea and the challenge of reach employees where they are, reach them on all the relevant channels that they have, right? So if we start thinking about this channel aspect and think about how can this look like in an ideal world, then in an ideal world, you would have a platform, be it Haiilo stuff-based, Maps, whatever, where you can curate publish content in one place and then deliver that to the channels where your employees are. And that can be the intranet itself, of course, that can be the employee app, but it can also very well be your email inbox. We all have our colleagues that love emails and gonna spend all their day in their email inboxes. We all have our Microsoft Teams power users. They're not that many, but we all have those who we know we best reach in Microsoft Teams. So that is also a relevant channel for intranet content to be delivered to. And then in that ideal world, you would also be able to continuously measure and improve what you do. Sounds pretty easy. So how does this work? So what we do as a platform is, first of all, we pull lots of information from your directories, from your HR information systems, in order to collect as many attributes about your employees and different target audiences as possible. And we also then pull content in from, for example, your SharePoint or other content management systems you might have. In the platform then itself, you as creators, intranet admins, you can then create your content, plan your content, and distribute it out to multiple channels. And additionally, end users can also do cool things that are super important still in intranets, like connecting with each other, following colleagues, creating communities, etc., etc. But then, like I said, being able to distribute content out, so not really getting away from the internet being an island, but delivering that content to other channels, other devices, and really meeting your employees on the channel that they prefer. And I'm not talking about just sending a teaser that when they click on it brings them back, but really delivering the entire piece of content to a channel like Teams. Why not? So another visualization that simplifies this is this one here. So we definitely believe that the future of intranets is multi-channel. So not only from a pull perspective, but also from a push perspective. And we even go one step further, because we at Haiilo also offer functionality around employee advocacy, which is basically the concept of turning your employees into ambassadors. So giving them the possibility right out of the intranet, share approved company content to their social media in order to accelerate your employer branding and ultimately for your employees to be corporate influencers and ambassadors. So I hope you've learned some things about where the market has moved and also why multi-channel is so important nowadays. So the question now is, a provocative question, is that enough, right? And Of course, it's a trick question. It's not, because you cannot simply use those channels. You also have to understand how these channels are different from each other. So ultimately, you will also have to start understanding how are your audiences different from each other, how is my content different from each other. So those are all different aspects that we don't have time talking about today, but are also super important. But let's stick with channels for now. How are channels different? And one of my favorite slides that I'd love to talk about lately is this one here, that summarizes and simplifies different levels of employee communication within a company. There might be a couple more, but I think those are the 4 main levels where communications happen within a company. And it starts simple, right? So we all know public communications. This is not only internal, but also external to some extent. So this is where we all do press releases, social media, so all external facing. Which I mentioned is important because internal and external is coming closer together. Then I think the level where most of our internet content and also mostly the dynamic news content that our central communications department create is centered around is organizational communication. So this is your typical top-down content. This is your company strategy, your sustainability report, your CEO newsletter, CEO blog, all these kind of things that we think as communicators is the most important things for our employees to consume. Well, reality is, if you ask employees, they don't necessarily care too much about those things because their daily lives do not happen on the organizational level on average, because their daily lives happen in team communications. This is what you do in your teams, in your Slack, but then also in your intranet. And I think the most important level that is not talked about enough yet is operative communications. So this is everything in between. So think of departments communicating to other departments, locations communicating to other locations, or single employees talking to departments, asking questions, employees asking transparent things and coming together in communities. This level is where you can make the most progress in terms of being more transparent in your communications if you leverage open channels for this. And it's important to think about open channels and closed channels for a second, because trying to do operative communications and communities in things like Microsoft Teams is just not going to work. And it's not only, for me, it's not only a question of belief, but also I've seen many companies globally of different sizes that have tried to establish vital communities in Microsoft Teams or Slack and have failed. Because just the complexity of the tool and the nature of how channels work is just not made for this level of communications. So I have never ever gone to Slack or Teams. I've used both extensively, and I love using it, by the way, for exactly that level of team communications and collaborating. But I've never ever gone to Slack or Teams and scroll through, oh, are there any new channels, anything I'm interested in, any communities I'd like to join, let's see who's around. This is just not how employees navigate through these tools, which is why it's super important to provide that tool. And again, this is where we do need that one place where employees can come together on an operative level and find exactly this in a very easy and intuitive way. So connect with each other, join communities, subscribe to a topic that I'm interested in, and then connect with exactly this. Find documents, etc., etc. And I think this is not something that's intended to happen in closed channels like Microsoft Teams. Cool, you might think. Wasn't this session supposed to be about AI? Right. So how can AI accelerate all of this that we've learned about channels, different levels of communications, and especially also, how can it help us, like I said, be better communicators, be better internet admins, and also our end users have a simpler life? So lately, we've spent lots of time thinking about how AI can help us across the entire communications value chain that all of us somehow operate in, either end-to-end or only in some parts of it, and that are super important for internet strategies as well. And here's a couple of first ideas. Some of them we have already developed, and I'm going to show you some cool examples. Others are just concepts for now, and we're investigating. But let's start with pull existing content. So if you are a publisher, how cool would it be to be able to summarize all of your existing content as a baseline for your new post, or generate new topics, new ideas based on your already existing content? Or even go a step further, actively listen to what your employees are talking about in the comment section, etc., and based on that, generate ideas of topics that you would want to address. And then generating content. I think this is, and it's important to make a differentiation between AI and generative AI. Not going to go into too much detail now, but you should be aware of that difference. Anyhow, when it comes to creating content, I think generative AI has made a leap forward for us, and we could leverage this to create content from scratch or improve the content that we create in our intranets. So change the tonality and writing style of existing texts, expand and elaborate things, summarize things, just like I do with ChatGPT as well whenever it gives me an answer like this. And other things like analyzing quantitative company reports, right? So think about you get a new sustainability strategy or a new legal document from your legal department, and you want to publish it on your intranet. Well, give it to ChatGPT, let it write a brief narrative and a cool storytelling about it, and then publish this instead of just publishing the entire 30 pages report. There's other cool elements that then go a little bit beyond AI even and touch upon concepts and leverage concepts of machine learning, ML. So distributing content is also super important, because not only will it be important for you to deliver your intranet content on the channel that your employees prefer, but also at the right time. And also letting the AI and machine learning mechanisms find out which is the channel that each individual employee uses most and at which time of the day. And this is something super cool that I think is going to help us reach employees way better, because it's going to enable us to do things like smart scheduling, smart channel distribution based on user behavior. And also talking about users, I think for users it's also going to be super interesting, and I'm pretty sure that not only us but also other internet providers are going to provide features like this very soon. So imagine coming back from a 2 weeks holiday, opening your intranet first day, Monday back, and you have that much of new posts, 100 notifications. So how cool would it be, just by the click of a button, get a 2-paragraph summary of what has happened in the past 2 weeks? All very possible. Like I said, some of the things we have already implemented, others we're building concepts about at the moment. And finally, in the middle, I think this is also super cool if we think about analyzing the success of your internet platforms from a quantitative standpoint. First of all, we almost always look at data. And I know it takes time to start analyzing, capturing data, but then the crucial part is, what do you do with the data? How do you take conclusions out of the data and then actually change something, which is super important. And I think that is also something where AI can specifically help us analyze data and get automated action recommendations directly from it. So, like I said, there's a couple of things that we as software providers, internet provider, have already implemented in Haiilo, and I'm happy to introduce Haiilo Ava to you. So we've called this little baby Artificial Virtual Assistant, and this is what will bring more and more AI features to our internet platform, to our clients. A live screenshot from an environment. How cool would it be, and I know search is a huge topic, that drives lots of confusion and whatever, you know what I mean. How cool would it be that your intranet search can not only search through the entire intranet and maybe, of course, also your SharePoint, your Google Drive, and find documents that are there. Check mark. We all provide federated searches nowadays. How cool it would be that it also can, based on the intranet content, answer questions like this. So we have implemented an integration with GPT-3 3.5, where you can, right from the internet search, ask a question like this: where can I find my timesheet? And based on the internet content, AI is going to provide that answer. So this is a screenshot from my internal instance. In our case, it said to me, you can find your team sheet in your calendar in Personio. And it even navigates me there and says there's a gray-green shaded bar where you have to click on it. Super cool. And if you have this information in your intranet as well, then based on this information in your instance, AI is going to give you a different answer. So leveraging existing data, analyzing it quickly, and then implementing it in end-user facing elements of internet platforms like search is going to be super powerful. Right? So you can ask, where can I find my timesheet? You could also ask questions like, what is Microsoft Viva, in case you just are confused by Microsoft strategies. And you can also, and this is also very exciting, you can also let Ava help you create content or optimize your content. So this is another live give out of the editor in Haiilo. So in the editor, what we call the content studio, you can mark content, and you can then ask Ava, and again, this is a ChatGPT integration, so sends a prompt to ChatGPT and then brings it back. You can ask Ava to make content longer, shorter, summarize it, change the tonality, etc., etc. So super cool for you in order to shape your internet content and make it more engaging, or ultimately also help you to never have to start on a blank sheet of paper anymore. And this is just the beginning. Like I said, there's so much more that I know the industry is currently looking into. Ultimately, and I don't want to be the guy that bashes Microsoft all day long. They're doing super cool stuff with Copilot as well, just to say something positive about them. The key question is, though, is this going to supercharge all of our communications and intranet? Well, not yet. But I think this is definitely going to save us, creators, admins, end users, valuable time. So, and just to end with a hypothesis of what we should do as communicators and internet admins with this valuable time, I think, and I hope, and it's something that we advocate for, that you use this time to measure the impact of your platforms, the impact of your communications, because up until today, most communicators say, I don't have time to measure the success of what I do. And when I mean measuring success, I don't talk about the classic reach metrics. I think this is something that most of us at least have started or thought about doing, so we can measure reach things like interactions, visits, clicks, etc., etc. This is just a good start. But in order to justify the impact and talk about the success of an internet platform, you will have to go a level beyond. You will have to think about, how does our internet platform influence metrics like strategy comprehension, like trust and leadership, like employee satisfaction. And I know there's many, many metrics influencing these kind of things, but it's super important, or would be super valuable, if you would be able to justify how your platform is having a positive impact on those. So ultimately, you will have to combine these different metrics in order to build that ROI business case of your function, of your role, of your intranet platform that you want to invest in. And in order to get those reach and impact metrics, you will need things like, of course, quantitative analytics, but you will also need qualitative analytics. You will have to use things like pulse surveys, quick polls, which is something that we provide as an integral part of our intranet platform as well, where you can send out quick pulse surveys to different target audiences, of course, on all different channels, and ask for qualitative feedback, and then combine these different metrics with each other. So here's a couple of examples from case studies that we did with some of our clients over the course of 12 or 24 months. So how cool would it be if you could go to your leadership and say, our internet platform has increased our strategy comprehension by 67% over the course of the last year or the last 2 years. Or our internet has contributed to trust and leadership by XYZ. So these are the things that company leadership actually cares about. If you go to your leadership and do a report and say, our internet have had X subscribers, X likes, X reach, nobody's going to really care about. But if you are able to justify these kind of metrics and the influence that your internet platforms have on these very business relevant metrics, you will directly be in a complete different position. And I promise you, you will have much more open ears that listen to you. So I really think and hope that AI is going to change of what we do. And probably not tomorrow, because as we've learned, those assistants have not become integral parts of our lives yet. But it's definitely going to change how we communicate and how we can do very cool things with internet platforms every day. And I think you've taken, hope you've taken some good insights for you to take away from today. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Very well thought through solution you presented there today. You guys have any questions for Kevin? There's one, Alex, in front here, please.
So first of all, thank you for the presentation. I'm curious about this integration of ChatGPT. You said it sends the content to ChatGPT and then gets it back. So the content isn't secure, because that's kind of the most important thing in internal comms, that a lot of the information is actually, or has to stay inside the company. So how do you make sure that's not going to happen?
So we can't, which is why all of this is optional, right? So if you use Haiilo, you don't have to leverage those AI features, only if you want to. But if you want to, then you have to connect your own OpenAI account. So this is something that we give into your responsibility and say, if a company has an OpenAI account strategy and does want to share certain data with Microsoft, essentially, and OpenAI, then you can leverage this and use these features. But ultimately, we cannot control this. And you're absolutely right. But our guess is that maybe not tomorrow, but again, in the next 1 to 3 years, every company might have exactly this, might have an AI strategy and might have found ways to have a secure way of transferring data, or maybe using other models whatsoever, which is why we already want to provide this. And some clients are already using it. Of course, it's not the enterprise clients, because they have exactly the concerns that you have. But yeah, this is how we solve it at the moment.
There's one more question in front here, Alex. Just in front. Just all the way. It's the palm tree t-shirt or shirt.
Yeah. Hi. Just coming back to that, like we at Merck, we've got also with OpenAI and Microsoft, really a direct connection that is trusted just for us. So it's possible then to connect those APIs. So it might be then also possible to connect them with Haiilo, so that you have their own trust border. And that's just a topic that can evolve. Kevin, thank you very much for your presentation. I just had a question about the measurement of multi-channel success. So how do you think that, is Haiilo already supporting that? And how do you think that will also evolve with the use of AI? And how will that be easier then to connect different platforms and analyze that?
Well, the connection part, not sure. But when it comes to measuring the success of channels, I think absolutely. Because as of today, you can already measure which channels are being used most by employees. If I send out this sustainability report to all channels, which is the channel that performs best, which is the channel that different target audiences consume this content on. So this already is possible. But I think if you apply probably not AI, but more machine learning concepts, that you can completely automate this. And you can say, just do smart scheduling and smart publishing, and then based on user behavior that the platform has learned over the course of some time, it automatically does this for you, and you don't have to think about it. You don't have to care about it anymore. So I think this is definitely going to help us deliver content in a better way and deliver content to end users on the channels that they prefer and use.
It's really good. Well, thank you very much. I think time is ticking,
Right.
but I know you're just out there at the exhibition hall, so please go and visit Kevin and the team and to get to know more about Haiilo. Thanks again, Kevin.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.